Hey, Ellen.
Hi, Rob.
How's it going?
It's going well. How about with you?
Going very well. I should introduce everyone again to you. I'm sitting here with Dr. Ellen Ladowsky, who's got a PhD in some kind of clinical psychology mumbo-jumbo, a lot of therapizing, talking cure nonsense, and we're going to spend a little bit of time today talking about the sort of neurotic and maybe even, dare I say it, psychotic behavior of some of our presidential candidates and their supporters.
I have to say, Rob,
what are we going to be talking about?
I have one regret.
Well, you only have one?
Well, we're not doing this on a flatbed truck. I was hoping we would be able to debate on a flatbed truck.
Well, why do you say that?
Because that's what Clinton was asking Obama to do.
Yeah, you know why? Because she wants to be on a truck because like that. I mean, isn't that, first of all, don't you think it's bizarre? You could never have predicted 6 or 7 or even 9 months ago that the earthy blue-collar candidate would be Hillary Clinton, that Hillary Clinton would be out-latte'd. She'd be out-elited by, there's somebody else even more latte-ish than Hillary Clinton.
Except, I don't know, her husband always attracted those sort of blue-collar voters.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you know, he was he never won a majority.
She's obviously well educated. She's just managed to create this image of herself.
Yeah, I like it.
Pardon me?
Like who would have thought that she would be the candidate on the from the Democrats that you really want to sit down and have a beer with? Like it used to be the thing. Like, well, who wants to have a beer with Kerry? Who wants to have a beer with Gore? Apparently, people would rather have a beer with Hillary Clinton than Barack Obama.
Well, apparently he's not drinking a lot, so.
Right. All right, so you're in your studio in New York.
I'm in my studio, as I told you. I'm just upset that we're not doing this on a flatbed truck.
I know.
And now we're in this venue.
Right. I'm in my living room.
Elite venue.
It's a very elite. I'm in my very elite living room here in Venice, California. Mm-hmm. There's a chance that there'll be some dog barking later. The dog she's kind of occupied now, chewing a beef tendon. But at some point, she's gonna, if somebody comes to the door or something, it's gonna be like nuts. So just to warn you.
Okay.
This is Blogging Heads. We can be as domestic as we like.
I guess we can.
And I guess what we should talk about more is like other stuff before we get into my problems. I have.
Oh, you're actually going to bring me some of your own personal problems?
Well, of course, as always. But also, I kind of went for a more open look here in the set because I feel like Blogging Heads is always this pretentious. You're in front of a shelf of books or a stack of newspapers, and that's so boring. So I kind of wanted to get a little of the outside here. And also because, I have seasonal affective disorder, and it's a beautiful day today. So,
so where are you sitting exactly?
Ellen, I have so many disorders.
Where are you sitting?
I'm sitting, in my chair in my living room. One of my chairs in my living room, and kind of,
Anytime someone comes in and they tell you that they have seasonal affective disorder,
what do you
know
say?
That the problems are far more grave. That's always a mask.
Well, I don't.
More serious problem.
I don't deny that there are other serious. I have many disorders. I have attention deficit disorder. I think we've established that. I have seasonal affective disorder. Name some disorders. I'm sure you can. Go through
comorbid, narcissistic personality disorder.
Oh, I totally have that. Is that good or is that bad?
No, that's not good. If you really have narcissistic personality disorder, if you have narcissistic features, that could be okay. That could be very helpful.
Okay, so speaking of malignant narcissists, which is one of my favorite terms.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to explain what it means to you?
Explain what it means. Okay. Does it even matter? I mean,
okay. Malignant narcissist is, if you think of narcissism as going on a continuum.
Which I do. I do.
Narcissism sort of on one end of the continuum and psychopathy on the other end of the continuum. Malignant narcissism.
Wait, psychopathy? What was that word? Psychopathy?
Yes. Like if you're a psychopath.
You have psychopathy. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So a malignant narcissist is where?
A malignant narcissist is closer to the psychopathy.
Okay. So on a scale of 1 to 10, where is Reverend Jeremiah Wright?
Well, that's unclear, but I would say that he has some strong narcissistic features.
You think? You're going to go out on a limb there and use all of your academic training and suggest that maybe Reverend Jeremiah Wright has got a little bit of a problem with narcissism.
He's got, he's showing some signs, some features. He's got the grandiosity.
Uh-huh.
He's definitely got the entitlement.
Right.
Who seems to have a lack of empathy.
A lack of empathy with whom?
For Barack Obama.
Mm-hmm, you think?
Yes, I definitely think.
Okay.
And I think he's been interpersonally exploitative. Another feature of a narcissistic personality disorder.
What do you mean by that?
But obviously I could never diagnose him unless he was in the office.
No.
Unless I met him.
Of course. I think we should just establish this for the duration of this conversation as a blanket disclaimer that Dr. Ellen Ladowsky is engaging right now in what we would call cocktail party couch tripping. She's not actually, none of these people are patients. I mean, am I right that Jeremiah Wright is not currently a patient?
Absolutely right. And I can't diagnose anyone who I've never met. And I don't actually believe in diagnosing people in general.
Really? What about medicating them?
Pardon me?
What about medicating them?
I think in some cases that's necessary.
That's good, because I was worried, because I treat you as my clinical psychologist, and I don't want to be near anybody who can't medicate me. All right, forget that. So Jeremiah Wright, what's that? He's a user? Is that the phrase? What was the phrase you used?
I said interpersonally exploitative.
Okay, what does that mean?
That he would he would use Obama or another person to get ahead.
Uh-huh.
And also he's very easily slighted, which is another feature of narcissism.
Okay, what do you mean easily slighted?
Well, I'm guessing that, when Obama, talked about him to begin with, he was in some way slighted by Obama's speech on race. Mm-hmm. Even though Obama was very loyal to him.
Right.
I think he was slighted in some way, and that could account for why he has come out in the last few days.
Well, okay, what happens now then? Okay, you would not describe him as a malignant narcissist, but someone with narcissistic personality disorder?
I couldn't even really describe him as someone with either of those disorders, but he definitely shows.
You describe me as somebody with all those disorders
of narcissism. Pardon me?
It's this classic liberal media. You've described me with all those disorders, but somehow with him you're going to give him a free ride.
Well, I know you fairly well. I met you in person.
That's true. All my many personalities. All right, okay. So,
but he's shown also some, I think envy is one of the features of narcissism. Mm-hmm. And I think that he has shown a lot of envy in the last few days. I think that's also a large part of why he came out against Obama.
What do you mean he came out against him, though? What does that mean?
Well, I think he knew that he was ruining his chances.
You think he was ruining the chances, really?
Pardon me?
You think he knew that?
I do.
Why does he want to ruin him?
I think that there is... Well, first of all, I think there's envy. I think that there's envy of the young in play. I think that there's jealousy. I mean, Reverend Wright is this, pastor, but now he's been ousted, and he's sort of been replaced by Obama, and Obama ends up being this preacher who actually has a much larger congregation than Reverend Wright would have ever dreamed of having. So
this might be the in a Freudian sense, kind of the anxiety of what is it? Is this like Oedipal?
It is sort of Oedipal, in the sense that Obama, I guess you would have said, had hostile feelings and ended up sort of killing the father yesterday. But actually, there's a part of the Oedipal story that really gets overlooked. We're always so focused on the hostility that the child has towards the same-sex parent. Well, but we really never focus on the hostility that the same-sex parent has towards the child. And I think what really happened was that you were seeing Reverend Wright come out and almost murder Obama. It was really filicide.
Yeah? Wow. This is so cool. Do you think he knew that? I mean, if you hooked Reverend Wright up to a lie detector test.
No, I don't.
Unconscious?
I think like most, situations where someone has hostile impulses, it's often projected onto something else. And I think he projected...
It's seasonal affective disorder.
Well, I think he basically projected his, these hostile impulses onto sort of the black church. So in the name of the black church, he was coming out and really, I think, saying very negative things about Obama.
But supporting
saying that supporting him, but what is, if you come up and you say, I support someone, but, they only said what they said because they're a politician, or you actually repeat the exact same comments that got Obama in trouble in the first place. I mean, that's very unusual, I think. And apparently he's a very savvy guy.
No, he's clearly a nut, though.
No, but savvy, politically savvy.
Well, I don't
so
know
apparently
how
there's,
you get that.
if you, I've been watching all these different shows on MSNBC, and there was
you and your MSNBC. Could you just give
it
all a break?
I'm a big MSNBC person.
My
TV crush is Keith Olbermann.
You need some kind of intervention for all the TV pundits. But I mean, do you really think that what has Jeremiah? What example could you give to point to that Jeremiah Wright has any kind of political savvy at all? If anything, he seems like he could use some.
That he could use some political savvy. Well,
yeah, he doesn't seem to have been an asset at any point.
No, he definitely wasn't an asset.
Except,
I think he was looking. I mean, I think he's looking
right.
to get attention for himself.
Well, he was an asset for Obama to get elected in Illinois, in the Senate.
Pardon me? I'm sorry.
He was an asset when you want to get elected in Illinois in the Senate.
He was an asset, yes. I think he was. I guess that's why. I mean, I think that's part of the reason why Obama gravitated towards this congregation.
So, can I just go back to that? So you think, I mean, there's a certain psychological thing where these two, this father-son, there's a lot of father-son stuff between the two of them anyway. I mean, even Obama admits that.
Right.
So you think, okay, so this was kind of filicide, which I think is really cool idea. I've got two questions. And one, what happens next? Obama just shot the second. Is Wright now done? Is he going to say anything?
I don't think that we've seen the last of Wright. And I guess, there were many dangers in what Obama did yesterday. I mean, he could alienate, some of his black base. But I think the greater danger is that, if Reverend Wright is this easily slighted person, this could even anger him more.
Right.
And he's on some sort of book tour. He's got a book coming out in November. And he could just continually be around, causing trouble for Obama.
Right. Interesting. Second question. An analogy, okay?
Uh-huh.
Is Wright to Obama at all analogous to Bill to Hillary? Meaning the person who's supposed to be on your side, who's supposed to be helping you, who should be saying the right thing and somehow is always saying the wrong thing?
Well, actually,
and who probably has complicated emotions about it?
They have similarities in terms of, they don't seem to be able, they both are impulsive. I actually think that Bill Clinton is helping Hillary Clinton a lot. I don't think that Reverend Wright has ever helped Obama.
You think that Bill's helping Hillary?
I think he's helping Hillary. I don't think he's helping himself. His popularity ratings have gone down. But I think, that there's lots of talk about how he's hurting her, and he's making all these, comments, and he's out of control. But I have no doubt that he's actually been sent out there to make these comments. I mean, even the other day when he said something like, Obama's playing the race card against me, or his camp is playing the race card against me, he's trying to remind people that Obama is black. He wants to play identity politics. If they play identity politics, the Clintons win. I mean, there are more women in the country than there are black people.
I'm unconvinced of that.
Okay.
I'm unconvinced of that. I think that requires too many, it's like three-dimensional chess. I don't think he can play that. I think these sound like the things he said on the radio station in Pennsylvania, they sounded to me like impulsive rants of a guy who's not in control. And he also, I think he resents Obama, and all the scuttlebutt is that he loathes him because he feels like, hey, I mean, in a way, this was my constituency. I was the first black president. I'm supposed to be the guy who can make votes appear.
Right, and I mean, Obama's also, he's very charismatic. I think that you're right, he took away his base. And actually, maybe he showed, he revealed something about the Clintons that people didn't really realize, which was that he was popular in the black community.
Right.
But they don't feel that he's done that much for them, that they're going to always be loyal Clinton supporters.
Right.
And I think there are other things. I mean, I think Obama is an extremely disciplined politician.
Yeah, is he okay? Put it this way: on a scale of compare the two Democratic candidates now in terms of just neurotic behavior. Who's more neurotic? Obama with his incredibly controlled, what looks like a very type A kind of personality, even
very
from the sort of the suit. Very exactly right. A little bit prickly sometimes, not quite so easygoing. You don't really want to have a beer with a guy. He doesn't seem He doesn't seem warm. He's not a warm candidate.
Mm-hmm.
He just is doing it a different way. And,
well, I don't know if I would necessarily agree that he isn't warm, but I think he has...
No, because you're in love with him.
No, I just think he has a very difficult task in front of him.
Oh, give me a break. He's
people
so
are
dreamy.
Always talking about
he's so
how
dreamy.
difficult it is to be a female candidate and run as a female candidate because you
Right.
look too tough or you look too soft. I think if you're a very young candidate and if you also happen to be a black male, you've got a lot of problems that you have to overcome.
And yet it doesn't matter because he seems to have you sewed up. And a lot of the press in the tank. So he seems to be doing pretty well, this guy. You and you.
I'll
and you
disagree with you about that, too.
I can just see you. I see you in the screen. I see you in the
case.
screen. I see you in the screen with a little heart appearing above your head, with like little Obama, another heart appearing above your head, and it's like Keith Olbermann. You're dreamily looking, all right, but you don't find that when Hillary Clinton lies about Bosnia, which we don't have to talk about too much because it's been talked about to death. What is that?
I do want to talk about it because while it has been talked about to death, I don't think anyone's actually really given any sort of good interpretation of what took place. And I feel that episode was deeply psychological. So, while people have sort of treated it like a lie,
right? And
why did she lie? I don't think that's what it was about. I actually think it was a representation of her psychic reality. And
which is under fire. She's under fire, like that. You mean?
Yes, that she always feels psychically that she's under fire, that she's, dodging bullets, and that she always manages to make a sort of near-death escape.
But doesn't she?
Isn't
that
she
accurate?
Always under bullets?
Isn't that accurate?
I think in the past it has been accurate, that she's been attacked a lot. But I can't say that she hasn't been part of the, the making of the attack.
No. I'm not talking about whether whose fault it is or who's behind it all. But it does seem like she does seem like a person who thrives, who does her best when she's being attacked, and she's at her worst when she's on offense, right? I mean, she's at her most. And what kind of person is that? That just seems nuts to me. I mean, for the first time ever, I feel like were I a Democrat, which I'm not. I might want to vote for Obama just because he seems like he's got his head screwed on a little straighter.
I think that's right. I mean, what I was saying before about him being young is I don't think he has the ability to sort of be this super warm guy. I don't think he's got to appear dignified at all times. And I think that explains why he's always wearing the tie. Why he's never doing the typical things that candidates do. He's never wearing goofy hats.
I have heard that. Okay, here's what I've heard from African-American friends of mine who work in finance. Mm-hmm. And they always say that they always dress up. They always wear... So when other people feel like it's casual Friday, they feel like they got to wear a suit every day. They feel like they got to wear the right suit. The tie's got to be knotted. They can't make one little mistake. Because even today, they kind of feel like they need to always appear totally professional and in control because no one's going to cut them any slack.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a little bit of Obama. Like I got to be better than perfect. I got to be more perfect than perfect.
Absolutely. I mean, you see. First of all, he is a great athlete. When you see him playing basketball,
he's a great athlete. Oh, he's so handsome. Give me a break.
But when he's playing basketball, I think if he does that too much, it's actually a mistake. Because he looks young when he does that. You see, he's got apparently has a great sense of humor, but we've seen him cut back on using sort of that humor, and I think that's also because he doesn't want to be seen as young. He doesn't want to be sort of turned into Chris Rock or, an athlete. He's always got to be, very dignified. And actually, I mean, a good contrast to Bill Clinton, who I think was able to be very unboundaried. And seemed very warm, and you always felt kind of close to him, was that he answered a question like, do you wear boxers or briefs? That was no problem for him to answer.
Right.
Someone asked Obama the same question, and he said, well, I don't think that's an appropriate question for you to be asking a presidential candidate. And the truth is, it's not an appropriate question. But that was okay for Bill Clinton.
Yeah, also, okay, whatever. Well, wait, so getting back to Hillary, right?
Okay.
Hillary lies about the thing. You say she's projecting her own self-image on that so that it actually it seems true to her?
The Bosnia tale? Well, let's talk about it a little bit. Did you think it was a lie? I mean, first of all, have you seen the tape? Because the footage is unbelievable.
It's fantastic.
I mean, she is, telling this,
No, I don't think it was a lie.
We'll call it a lie for now, although that's not actually what I think it is.
But
she's telling this story in this way that, in this very relaxed way, seemingly sincere. And it's not just that, there are no tells that this story isn't true. And in fact, when she's talking about, she's running from the sniper fire and the grand ceremony's been canceled.
Right.
And she has to run to the car with her head down. She's even got this amazing this accompanying hand gesture.
It sounds real.
Where she talks about running to the car. It's like,
she thinks it's real.
I ran to the car with my head down.
Yeah.
It's a very believable story. And I kept looking at the tape and kept thinking, are there any signs that she's lying? Where are the tells?
No, none.
There was she seemed a little bit, she chuckled a little bit. But, people react to trauma in different ways. So
she seems to chuckle about everything.
that necessarily meant that she was lying.
Okay.
When I was really analyzing the tape closely, I saw that she was kind of blinking. She was doing a lot of blinking. And
is that a sign that you're lying?
That can be a sign that someone's lying.
Really? The constant blinking?
It can be, yes.
All right.
But, it can be a sign that some sort of emotional state is going on. There's an increase in emotion. But again, there can be an increase in emotion when you're telling a story.
She's telling a story for 1,000 people. Yeah.
Right? So if you see that tape,
what's your
unbelievable piece of tape.
Okay. What's your analysis? So what are you saying? That she's nuts?
I think that Hillary had a lapse. In fact, she said so herself when she was on the Leno show.
What do you mean a lapse?
I think she said, I've had a lapse. And I actually think the lapse was that she allowed fantasy to take over reality.
So she believed it when she said it?
I think she completely believed it. And the only way that it makes sense if she believed it. Because if she didn't believe it doesn't make sense.
Okay, she believed it. Is that unusual? Is that an unusual thing for people? If someone came to you and sat there and said after they said, I have seasonal affective disorder, and you really got into it, and they said, sometimes I have a lapse where I forget, I think something happened, but it didn't really happen. Is that unusual?
Well, you have to remember, if I see someone that I'm looking at, I don't care what what their external world is like. It doesn't make one bit of difference to me.
That's exactly right.
People are telling me things that definitely are not true, but, I want to get an understanding of their inner world. What's unusual is for someone to reveal their inner world as though it was the external world, and for them to just ignore anybody who's saying that didn't happen. And in fact, I believe that when people were actually saying, well, that never happened, that in a way, she believed she was right, that it did happen. And she could only admit that it didn't happen when she was presented with the footage. It was sort of jarring to her.
Looked silly. Okay.
Pardon me? I'm
sorry.
It
looked silly.
Difficult hearing you.
And it made her look silly. Did I have to do this again? All right, try that. Is it better?
Yeah, that's a little better.
All right. It's probably a $4 microphone. Okay, all right. So is she, you're not answering my question. Is she crazy?
No, I don't think
is she too crazy to be president?
I think, is she too crazy to be president? No. But I would say that she has...
Usually you would expect a more ringing no. But you think it's a possibility.
I wouldn't say absolutely not. She's, I think that she retreats into this inner world. It's probably a great defense for her because I think
everybody?
Yes, everybody does. But what everybody doesn't do is sort of confuse the two. So in other words, if you're talking to a friend, you might tell them something that's not true. But if you're talking to a group of people and there is tape suggesting the opposite, that's an unusual thing to do. If there are people already objecting and saying, well, that never happened. I mean, she was on this trip. She was accompanied by Chelsea. Do you think that if there were, bullets flying at them, that Chelsea wouldn't have sort of said, hey, Mom,
hey, Mom, only
Mom, there was no sniper fire. It doesn't make sense. And she repeated it so many times, and every excuse they gave was nonsensical.
But isn't that could that be? And I'm not trying to defend Hillary Clinton. I mean, but couldn't it be that that's the condition of running for president, is that you're constantly on camera and people are always like asking you things and you have no free time, and if you do have that lapse where you suddenly lapse to the things that you think happen. I mean, I do that a lot. I sometimes forget what happened and what didn't happen and what really happened and what I want to happen. I mean, most of the thing, I mean, my job as a writer when I write is to like take stuff that kind of happened a little bit and then make it happen in a funnier and better way. That's what I do.
Do you think that you would ever think that you had been shot at if you hadn't been shot at? I mean, this is a very extreme example.
Okay, no.
It's not that she exaggerated. It wasn't that she
No.
said, that there was sniper fire in a different place, or that, one bullet had been shot at her and she just exaggerated and said, 100 bullets.
Yeah.
I mean, there was never any sniper fire.
Okay.
Ever.
Let me ask you this then. I guess I want to talk about. I mean, my only point is that you're right. I mean, as in degrees, it's terrible, but in a degree, it's like she's in this strange, already extreme situation. I mean, running for president. I mean, you and I talk a lot about our problem, our I personally believe sociopathic ability to lie to people to their face about work that we say we've done or sent in or emailed or faxed, when in fact we're way behind. Now, I mean, maybe you don't do that anymore.
I think that's different.
But I still do the thing where you're like, wait, you didn't get it?
Right.
Well, you got to check your server, man, and then I'll send it to you. And I still do that bullshit. I mean, I still do it. I'm 40 plus years old, and I don't know why I'm doing it. I mean, I did this thing. I did a thing last week where I had put something off I needed to do, and I kept thinking, I'll just pull an all-nighter, which is insane. I didn't even pull all-nighters when I was in college.
Really?
And I just. Well,
you're too old to pull an all-nighter now.
I'm too old for so many things, except for seasonal affective disorder. But what I'm saying is, isn't it possible that what we saw there was something that we all do? We shouldn't do it.
No, I really don't think it is something that we all do.
Because you
fact,
definitely remember being shot at.
As political lies go, it was an outlier. There was absolutely no need for her to say this. She wasn't trapped in a corner.
Right.
She wasn't doing something in her personal life that she was, not advocating publicly. There was absolutely no reason for her to tell this story. It was completely unnecessary. And in fact, even as, far as let's say it was politically motivated, it's hard to even determine what the political motivation would be. I mean, some people were saying that she's trying to build up her foreign policy experience. But, that story about being shot at doesn't really speak to that. It's also
not a liability. It's not her liability with Obama. It's not like people are saying, I think Obama has more foreign policy experience. There's no point in burnishing that.
I mean, she might have used it sort of to show that she had good character. And that, she was very brave and she was very patriotic. And at that point, it might have had something to do with the fact that she sort of was trying to position herself as the better candidate to run against McCain.
Maybe.
Because she could sort of say, we both put ourselves in harm's way.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm more persuaded by your argument that that's actually how she sees herself. So that's the template fantasy that's always going to come tumbling out when she's on autopilot or she's trying to conjure up some image. It's always going to be the image. The image will always be true, which is true to her, which is I am under fire. I am running there are snipers.
Absolutely. And
there is how about this? Okay, let's get really Freudian. Considering this is kind of like a weird little dream lapse, kind of an unconsciousness coming out to the front. And notice there was no party for me. They canceled the party for me. That was the other part of the lie, which was like we ran, we did corkscrews, we avoided the sniper fire, and they canceled the party. I mean, would that have been, would you, as a Freudian, ever use that?
Wouldn't have been my first thought.
No, of course not. Because I get deep, baby. I'm deep. But don't you think that's kind of weird? Like, they didn't have the party. The party. What party? Is that a pun? Is that a Freudian pun? They don't have the political party for me?
It's interesting. It's an interesting idea. I mean,
I
found the content.
Admit that it's brilliant.
The content of the fantasy to be very interesting because she is sort of both victim and hero in it. And I think that those are two positions that she's taken throughout the campaign. And there's also this sort of strange negative hallucination that there was no one with her, that there were no witnesses.
Right.
And again, I think that's something
that's great.
that has come out in the campaign. She sort of careens wildly between, being the hero, being the victim, and there's always this assumption that no one was watching her, no one is there to record what she said.
And you know what? And for Hillary Clinton, there will never be a welcoming ceremony. She's never going to be welcomed.
Oh,
I think that's significant. I think it's significant.
Yeah, well, actually, it's an interesting interpretation. I don't know about that. I mean, I know you think that this story is actually, I'm saying something that's very negative about Hillary Clinton, but I'm actually not. I'm saying that this idea that she lied and told this reckless lie and didn't, she paid no regard to anyone who was sort of, disagreeing with her. I'm saying that there's actually a more sort of a sympathetic reason, which is that I think it really is her internal reality, and that what she was doing wasn't reckless, that when she was found out and she had to admit the truth, it was actually difficult for her.
You're right.
She was angry because it was like she had to give up what she thought was reality.
I agree. I think you're right.
Because her response, even when she was caught, was, caught out, was very, very interesting. I mean, there wasn't any remorse.
No.
And it was sort of leading people to say, like, well, where was that voice in her head that sort of was telling her, what was wrong and what was right. She didn't seem to have that. And so, people like Christopher Hitchens was saying, well, she may, just be one of those people who is able to lie with that conscience. But I don't really think that's true. I think that the anger came from, having to abandon what she thinks is reality.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that always a problem?
In fact, her answers made no sense, and I think that's the reason why she was unable to ever answer this properly. And interestingly, I'm going to read you something, because she had a very interesting answer in the Philadelphia debate. And I want to read you her answer, because I think this was completely overlooked. Probably because people were very focused on the ABC debate and how horrible it was and how Obama got attacked and all that nonsense. Okay, I want to read you what she said because I find it fascinating. She said, I can tell you that I may be a lot of things, but I'm not dumb. On a couple of occasions in the last weeks, I just said some things that weren't in keeping with what I knew to be the case. On a few occasions, I was not as accurate as I've been in the past. So I'll either try to get more sleep or have somebody there who is a reminder to me. Now, ordinarily saying things that aren't in keeping with what you know to be true is called lying. And dumb, just seemed to come out of nowhere. I mean, no one was accusing Hillary Clinton of being dumb.
Well, they are, though, right?
Not really.
What she's saying is, I wouldn't have consciously made this up knowing it was false. Because I'm not dumb. I knew you had tape. I knew it was an historical event. I know you could find out. What she's really saying is she essentially is agreeing with you and saying, when I said it, I thought it was true.
See, now that's interesting, because I think what she was doing was that people started to, there was this belief at first that she was just like, why would she tell this risky lie, and why would she do this? And then people started to sort of go, maybe she believes it. Hitchens read some articles saying that maybe she's subject to an illusory past. And I think what she was trying to do, when she said, I may be many things, but I'm not dumb, was to take it out of the realm of the psychotic and put it actually into the realm of the rational and the intellectual.
What do you mean?
Well, being dumb isn't being psychotic. Being dumb is making a conscious, rational choice. So I think she was actually, it was such an odd thing for her to say during the debate. I'm actually surprised that nobody focused on that line, because it was an interesting line, because she also said, I may be many things, but I'm not dumb. So it also kind of made you think, like, what things is she?
What are you admitting to? Yeah. I may be a psychopath, and I may...
All right.
So let me just... So I think I agree with everything you just said. It's sort of interesting. I still feel like...
Interesting?
Very interesting,
okay,
Doctor is very interesting. But I still sort of feel like we're overlooking my brilliant analysis, which is that at the end of the day, what she's really saying is, and no one was there to welcome me. And
I think that's brilliant.
That's kind of how she sees herself. Like,
I think that's brilliant.
I personally feel like I need to get some credit for that.
No, I'm going to give you credit. That was actually, it was a very thoughtful.
Because you gave me a book full of this. A shelf full of. Exactly right. But you gave me once a shelf full of Freud books, and I did read them.
You
didn't understand a word of them. But I did read them. And I feel like
Freud's
now
very easy to read.
He actually is very easy to read. He is very easy to read.
He's one of the only psychoanalysts that actually is easy to read.
Yeah, and you're a Freudian, right?
I would definitely fall more in the traditional sort of psychoanalytic views.
We're going to have to address that in our next session. Because I think I think it's very significant. But okay, all right. So now we've established the sort of the family romance of Obama and Reverend Wright.
Family romance.
I'm not using family romance right, am I? That's when you're the foundling. You're convinced you're a foundling.
The family romance is that sort of every child has this idea that they somehow, that their parents couldn't possibly be their parents because, they're so great and their parents are so ordinary. And so they have this idea that they sort of, came from a more famous family. And
they're
I think
secret royalty.
Yeah, that's sort of the appeal of a story like The Prince and the Pauper.
And Harry Potter, right?
Exactly.
Secretly, okay. All right, so the father-son Oedipal conflict.
There was something Oedipal going on there.
Between Obama and Wright, I'm sure I agree. Now we've talked a little bit about this strange unconscious and lapse and dreamscape of Hillary Clinton and her sort of inability, really, sometimes to know the difference. Can we talk about another highly, deeply conflicted figure in this drama?
Go ahead.
That's Bill Clinton. Does Bill Clinton want his wife to win?
It's interesting. I actually heard Rick Hertzberg make an interesting argument this afternoon. That the reason that Bill Clinton...
Was that at lunch? When was that?
No, it was just on the New Yorker website. And he does this conversation.
Okay.
I wasn't with him at lunch or anything. But he was saying that he thinks that actually that Clinton dislikes Obama so much because he's actually displacing some of his anger that would normally be focused on Hillary, on Obama. I don't think that. I think he actually...
What's he mad at Hillary for?
No, I
mean... What's he mad at him?
You might be jealous, right? Or envious or whatever, jealous that your wife is going to be president. You might fear that she's going to be a better president than you. But I think actually that he sees her a little bit as a narcissistic extension of himself. And so that he doesn't really see her as this complete other person.
But here's a problem.
Or he sort of goes back and forth and can sometimes see her as her own entity. But at this moment where he's so involved in the campaign, and I don't think that there's any chance that she is going to overshadow him in terms of his charisma, his ability to attract blue-collar workers. I mean, I think that's all him. I think if he wasn't helping her out, I don't think that her results would have been as good in Philadelphia, in Ohio. I mean, he's just... I'm guessing that he's going to do well, that she's going to do very well in Indiana.
I think she'd do really well in Indiana.
So do I. I don't know why people have been suggesting that it would be even there at all.
It's just it's a conservative state. They haven't voted for a Democrat since Johnson versus Goldwater. It's a very conservative state. The Democrats who are there are very conservative. So, and it doesn't have the two big urban areas like Pennsylvania's Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. It's pretty much, except for Indianapolis, it's pretty much, Indiana. So
I actually think she's going to clean up there, and I think the Reverend Wright, issue this week is really going to raise her numbers there.
So, what do you think? Bill Clinton's sort of an interesting character because when he left office, when he first left office, he was very popular. And then he had this incredible, bad 3 months when the pardons, during the sort of the pardon scandals, which gave George W. Bush this kind of fantastic honeymoon that no one thought he would ever have. Because compared to his predecessor, he seemed to be squeaky clean, and everybody loved George W. Bush, and everybody hated Bill Clinton because Bill Clinton was such a sleazebag, and then he wanted the big fancy office in New York, and he had a series of problems that were pretty bad. And then he kind of cleaned up his act a little bit and made a lot of money. So the question really is...
And he's done a lot of good things, Bill Clinton. I mean, he actually, he has done work for HIV/AIDS. He sort of partnered with,
all right, whatever.
George Bush Sr., and he's done a lot of work with, doing work for Katrina and
so let me
but with him, it's always a mixed bag. I mean, he does that stuff, and then at times he acts like a criminal.
So let's talk about probably what I actually feel like is maybe the least interesting, psychologically speaking,
Okay.
president ever, and that's George W. Bush.
Yes, I would agree with you
Now,
completely.
my intuition tells me that the minute he gets out of office, he's going to go back to Crawford and play with his dogs.
I could not agree with you more. I mean, it is fascinating. I happen to think that George Bush has a high IQ. I think that he is a very concrete thinker, though. I don't think he's reflective. I don't think he's curious. I don't think,
Those are bold statements.
He doesn't think in abstract ways. I don't even think he's going to care that much about his legacy because
He doesn't seem
history
to.
and those kinds of issues don't really matter to him. But I do think that he is kind of smart in a very concrete way, and apparently people tell me he's also very funny.
Yeah, apparently he's very funny.
I've
So
heard
let me
that
ask you
from
that.
everybody.
Yeah, but also funny in a that sometimes doesn't know when to let it go away. Like one of those guys that gets a laugh, and it's usually about the color of your shirt or something, and then keeps going.
Maybe that may well be true. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have never really seen
The friendly bully. The friendly bully. There's always one in the room.
Oh, that's interesting.
So do you think? Do you think he's gonna? Because I agree with you. I find the most unnerving thing about him. I find is his what seems to me to be a sort of a lack of ego. Like he doesn't seem to be driven by a desire to be loved or any of the things that we normally associate with a politician.
Absolutely not. And in fact, I think he's going to have a very good post-presidency in terms of his ego. Because I think, he's leaving with this big piece of unfinished business, the war, but he's so not reflective that I just don't think it's going to bother him. I don't think he's going to be racked with guilt or any of those other things that some presidents would be.
Yeah,
I think those qualities are going to serve him well.
Yeah, this is a guy who seems to be uninterested in justifying himself.
Definitely.
Which is the one thing that every president, good or bad, seems to be obsessed with, especially at this point in their career.
Oh, absolutely.
When
I really don't think that he's going to care at all how, history sees him. I don't think that's going to matter to him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just don't think he thinks symbolically like that. I don't think he makes connections like that.
Right.
I think he's going to go. I think he's going to be extremely happy when he's out of office.
Okay,
And I don't think he's going to be burdened in the way that a typical president would be.
No,
either in terms of, just unfinished business or in terms of having to sort of...
does that make him the weirdest president ever?
I think he's an unusual president. There's no question about it.
It seems very weird to me. Like
He's
it's almost like
unusual.
It's almost like if you describe that person without saying it's George W. Bush, you'd be describing good qualities, right?
I don't know that they're. I don't necessarily think that being a concrete thinker, not being very curious, not being able to think in abstract ways, are generally seen as positive qualities.
I'd say they have a problem.
But I think it's good for him. I think it's good that he won't be sitting there managing his legacy. I just don't think that's who he is. I saw Carter the other day on TV.
Oh, God.
What's that about?
No,
I was so impressed. But
oh, stop. Oh my God. Nobody's worse than Jimmy Carter. He's just the insufferable pain in the ass.
Oh, come on.
An insufferable, self-justifying... Oh, God, there's nobody worse. There's nobody worse.
He is
nobody.
Great.
Nobody worse.
I think he's like a true Christian.
Oh, my God.
Yes, he's very concerned. He's very, introspective about the state of his soul.
Oh, please. He is a malignant narcissist. That's what a malignant narcissist is.
I don't think so.
Absolutely.
I would completely disagree with you. He hasn't done most of what he's done for egotistical reasons. He's been a
You're mad.
statesman.
You're crazy. You're crazy. That's a crazy thing to say. You're crazy. That's the only reason he's done it. My God, this man is driven by ego.
What do you mean by
crazy?
What do you mean by crazy? That's a fairly big umbrella term.
I'm using it as a term, as an academic term.
Okay.
As one trained psychologist to another trained psychologist.
Okay.
I've been trained, not really.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's too much conflict. Okay. So we've psychoanalyzed Obama, Wright, Bill, Hillary, even George W. a little bit. You're totally wrong about Jimmy Carter. We're going to put him off to the side. Let's talk about the voters. How crazy are the voters? Are they neurotic? I think they're a little bit neurotic.
Why's that?
Well, I feel like the problem Obama has with white voters, white blue collar voters, is they want him to be tougher anyway on African Americans. They want him to do some kind of Sister Soldier moment. Sister Soldier moment. The only reason I was hesitating talking is because I have a low battery now. I'm going to have to change my phone. But that's what they kind of want that. At some point, you're going to lose me. They kind of want a Sister Soldier moment. He doesn't seem to be giving it to them, right? But they also kind of can't admit it. So I think the reason the right thing hurts them is because the voter looks at it and says, well, wait a minute, like, I wanted you to tell him he's crazy. I wanted you to repudiate him.
Well, he did yesterday.
He did. That's true.
So he did have that moment yesterday. But I do think that, should he end up being president, I would imagine that he's going to come out with some fairly strong statements in terms of the black community. I just don't think he can do it now. They're his base.
Oh, you mean when he wins the nomination?
I think so.
He'll do a Bill Cosby tour?
He's saying little things already,
right.
Don't be serving your children like ho-hos for breakfast, and, you've got to be reading to them, and, you're getting little hints of it. Okay. You're getting hints of a sort of, some changes with affirmative action policy. You're getting little hints of it. I think when he gets into office, I think you're going to see a lot more of it.
All right. Okay. What about these young women who are voting for Barack? Why aren't they voting for Hillary? Should they be voting for Hillary?
No. Why?
Wouldn't they have been voting for Hillary if he... Yeah.
No, I don't think so. First of all, he's much closer to their age.
So generation
you got to remember, actually, that, they keep saying this thing about mothers and daughters. These young voters, I could be their mother. Hillary is like their grandmother almost. So I think just in terms of...
You look very young. You'd be a very young mother.
Well, when I, was working with college-age students, I was always surprised because they would talk to me about their parents and make their parents sound so old, and then they would say that their parents were, they'd give me the age and it would be younger than I am. So... it's possible that I could have a 20-year-old daughter or a 21-year-old daughter.
It is possible.
So, she's not quite up there at the age of grandmother, but there's quite a big age gap between these young voters and Hillary Clinton. I also think that there's something about being young. Well, Hillary Clinton, I think, appeals to blue-collar voters to some degree, and to women in general, because they're sort of willing to accept that as your life goes on, you make certain kind of compromises, romantic compromises, and so they're not terribly upset by the fact that she stayed with Bill Clinton. I think younger voters, they're just more idealistic. And they don't realize that in the end they may make those same kind of compromises.
But also but also the younger voters tend to live in a world of broken marriages. They are more likely to have encountered at least half of their friends, if not themselves, to be products of parents who split up.
Absolutely.
And so
actually, in a way, the Clintons have a very old-fashioned relationship. I don't think it's that. In a certain way.
Very Victorian. Yeah, exactly.
Right? This idea that he sort of cheated on her and she stayed with him, and it's kind of an old-fashioned marriage. It's not really like kids today are very different.
They don't live together. They don't spend any time together. It's very Victorian.
So
she's kind of uptight.
You can kind of see it as a new thing, like, it's this deal they've made, it's this political deal they've made, but that's just our fantasy. Right. We don't really know what it is.
So let me ask you this.
I think just younger people are more idealistic. They're, they're definitely, colorblind in a way that, their parents and grandparents weren't. There's not the same kind of sort of, I think they just don't, sexism, these issues don't really exist for them.
Right. Okay. For some reason, my battery's dying.
Okay.
Right? My handheld phone. Yeah, I don't know how to do that, though, and continue on with our blogging heads. But I want to ask you one question, because it's sort of the last question of our conversation, and we talked about it a little bit before, and I kind of want to hear more about your crackpot idea. You told me that you think that the press has been too easy on Hillary Clinton, and has been too hard on Barack Obama.
I wouldn't say that I think that they've been too
nuts?
hard on Barack Obama.
Nuts?
I think that they've been very easy on all the candidates, but I think that there's this perception that they've been difficult on Hillary, or tough on Hillary, and I don't think that that is true at all. There are so many reasons. I guess, the main one being that they haven't really explored anything in former President Clinton's administration.
Oh, but God,
we never hear about Whitewater. We never hear about cattle futures.
Oh my Lord, cattle futures, Whitewater. These are the greatest hits of 16 years ago.
Yes, but you know what? These young voters, if you're a voter today and you're 24, you were only 16 at the end of the Clinton administration.
But it is not news by any definition.
You were only 8 years old at the beginning of the Clinton administration.
You're arguing my point. It's history. It's not news. It's not new information. The only reason to bring that up would be to...
it shows something about someone. I mean, if they're going to be looking into, Resco, then they still have lots of things going on with the Clintons that they should be exploring. No one's mentioned Sandy Berger, and he's advising Clinton. I think if you
Sandy Berger,
today,
they've mentioned that. They've mentioned... the only thing they haven't done is they haven't gotten deeply into Bill Clinton's relationship with Ron Burkle and where all the money came from and whether it came from Dubai Ports World and all that stuff. But I'm not sure that's like...
Well, there are a lot of things. I mean, the Clinton Library, we don't know who the donors are. And actually, I was reading some article at some point in the last month that said that since Hillary Clinton announced her candidacy, that donations to President Clinton's library have gone up by 70%. So these are obviously people who are, hoping to curry favor with the new administration.
Well,
that's important. There's apparently some lawsuit going on in Los Angeles
whatever.
That I know nothing about.
Right.
But that I keep sort of seeing little glimpses of, but no one seems to be really writing about it.
But that doesn't mean that... But look, the press is not going easy on her.
Well, I think that what you're looking at is the way they speak about Obama. And I do think that there are, a lot of members of the press that are for Obama. But I think that the images that they keep showing on TV are so pro-Hillary that it doesn't matter what they say. The images override the words.
That's outrageous. First of all, the images do not outrate the words. But also, that you are the only...
What are you talking about? How can you say that? Is that because you're a screenwriter?
No, it's just because it's like a cliche people always say.
If you write something and there's this image, the image is just far more powerful than the words.
Then why is she losing?
I think that she's losing for many reasons, but not because the press is against her. That's ridiculous.
So you alone... really, among all sentient Americans, believes that the press is somehow in the tank for Hillary Clinton?
No, I don't think that the press is in the tank for Hillary Clinton, but I think that they've done things that have ended up benefiting her.
Don't think that every one of those debates...
They ran that red phone ad around the clock. I mean, she didn't have the money to get that much television play.
They do that all the time.
Running it. They kept running that Saturday Night Live skit that said that the press was favoring her. They ran it so much that if you didn't think that, you would have by the end of watching the show. They've run, the Reverend Wright stuff 24/7. I mean, part of the problem is that you've got these, cable news networks, and they don't have a lot to put on. So they keep running these things. But I think the only time that they ran really bad images of Hillary Clinton was with the Bosnia remarks.
I'm unconvinced.
Okay.
I think that the press is like a lot of the educated elites, like all educated elites, they see in Obama what they want to. They see him as this way out of their morally tied up in knots racial problem. They want this guy to win. And I'm not saying that's a mistake or a problem. I'm just saying that it's a fact. I mean, I'm a Republican, and I feel that way.
That you like Obama.
Yeah, but it's completely... I won't vote for him.
But why do you say you like him? I'm interested in hearing.
You know why? Because I think it might be good for...
Why does he appeal to you?
Because he might be good for the country.
In what way?
it might be good for the country to see a black man in the White House, in the Oval Office.
I think undeniably.
It might be a powerful symbol that if I was really going to be cynical, would say, well, he's not going to get any of that crazy left-wing stuff anyway. And I bet you when he gets in, he's going to be so happy that he's in, and it's going to be really hard in November, that he's going to think to himself, you know, if I just play it cool and run in the center, you know, they'll put me on the $10 bill. And, you know, and he's probably not wrong.
Well, I think let's say he got nothing passed at all, no legislation whatsoever, but he was a great symbol. I think he also has, you know, he can use the bully pulpit in a way that
the bully pulpit.
I don't think any of his competitors could.
To do what? The bully pulpit is one of those things people say, oh, use the bully pulpit. Nobody ever uses the bully pulpit. There's no such thing as the bully pulpit.
Well, they really do, but they should.
Everybody always says they should.
It's a very powerful weapon.
Is it really?
I believe
What's
it is.
It done?
I think you can change public opinion.
Really? How? Name one time it did that.
Well, I would say that he's changed public opinion in this campaign by using the bully pulpit.
How?
He's managed to bring in all sorts of young people.
Oh, stop it with the young people. Oh, stop it. You know what? If you LexisNexis search young people, every 4 years there's this, the young people, and the young people love Howard Dean, and the young people love Gary Hart, and the young people are going to sweep the nation, and if we just get the young people love Kerry. Give me a break. The young people, never turn out. They're not that young. They don't like change that much, and there's no bully pulpit, okay? The president is like the chief executive of administrative branch. The minute he gets there, his feet are in molasses, and maybe Reagan can get big tax cuts, but people are already in favor of the tax cuts anyway.
Well, maybe, but if you're not, I could think of certain occasions in the Clinton administration where I think he should have used the bully pulpit, but he didn't.
Yes, but
and actually, he would be a great person to have used that as well because he was a very charismatic speaker.
I would say to you, I would say to you, yes, you're right, but you're not saying. You're not arguing with me because what I'm saying is the reason he didn't use it is because it doesn't exist. There isn't one. It's just a phrase people use when they want the president to go out on a limb politically and stand up for things they want that they know are politically unpopular. And no president ever does because he's never successful at it. That's what's great about this country. We ignore our president a lot. Okay. Thank God.
Well, I would be surprised if you don't see Obama using it in some way.
I will be stunned and flabbergasted if you do.
Well, he'll need to sort of bring people together, so he's absolutely going to have to use the bully pulpit
in
order to convince the country of things so that members of Congress
you bring people together, the way you do not bring people together with a bully pulpit. You bring people together by telling them stuff, soothing bromides. Soothing bromides, no activity at all. Just quiet bromides. Look, I'm a black man, I'm in the Oval Office. Everything's fine.
No, I don't think that's
how you bring the country together. A bully pulpit is by
he's
definition
actually done very different things. His speech on race, which I know you think is just kind of average, I thought it was very good, but it was an unusual move.
So?
I think he could have just let that controversy go away. And actually, by
he did. He wanted to.
By giving wanted to what?
He wanted to make it go away, but instead, he had Reverend Wright came back. It was like a little poke.
No, I think he could have, at that time, he could have let it go away. And I think by actually giving that speech on race, he's in some way incensed Reverend Wright. And now he's,
He rattled his cage?
Absolutely.
He rattled the tiger's cage.
Absolutely. I think this guy's going to be around
he rattled Daddy's cage. He rattled Daddy's cage.
I don't want to take the ethical thing too far, but I think that there's a lot of jealousy there on the part of Reverend Wright.
Yeah.
How could he not be jealous? Here's this guy who's completely, usurping him. He was this, little congregant, and now he's got,
right, and he owes him
a whole country to preach.
And if you're Reverend Wright, you think you owe me because I gave you legitimacy in the black community in South Side of Chicago. Mm-hmm. I gave you a half-white politician legitimacy in the South Side of Chicago. You owe me. I bet you that's part of it.
I'm sure it's related to that.
Ellen,
or that he was his teacher, and he, first of all, I don't know how close they really were. That's still kind of a question mark. Just because
according to Obama, they were very
baptized
close.
His children and he married them.
According to Obama,
people who do that and they don't really know
You can't scoot out of this now. Obama has said.
I don't know.
The great Obama said they were very close. Obama said he's like my. I could no longer. More easily repudiate him than I could repudiate my own grandmother.
That's true, but I don't know if it's
because
is
interestingly
of
Freudian,
him
right?
Specifically, or because he believed he represented a certain portion of the black community.
Whatever. He made the comparison to my grandfather.
But it's kind of interesting, right? I mean, in the sense in your church, do you go to church? No. Okay.
What do you
ever go to church?
I have been a churchgoer in the past.
Okay. Did your family go to church regularly?
There was a time.
Okay. Well, I mean, do you think it's possible that, you can be married by a pastor, or your children could be baptized by him, but you don't have this super strong connection? I mean, I certainly know that rabbis can marry people and you have absolutely no idea what their political views would be.
Of course, I agree that. I just feel like in that church, in that tradition, with that pastor, I don't think there's anybody within 100 square miles of the south side of Chicago who doesn't know what Reverend Jeremiah Wright thinks about stuff. I bet you they even know what his favorite pizza topping is. This guy doesn't seem to hold anything back.
He doesn't, except that I've heard people. I've heard some commentators this week say things that I thought were very interesting about. There's a black woman on, maybe it was Hardball. It was one of the MSNBC shows.
Oh, God.
And
MSNBC. Good
she
Lord.
talked about how she had gone to that church, on 6 occasions, and she had never seen anything like what Reverend Wright did in the last few days. And I find it interesting that actually the topics he chose were the exact same topics in the sound bites that we kept seeing.
Malignant narcissism.
Well, he was just being very, very provocative. So in that sense, I think he was out in some way to destroy Obama's chances.
Okay.
Just because why would you choose those things? I mean, you would be so conscious of trying to present yourself in this,
I agree.
very favorable light. And I don't know, you kind of think he's crazy. Maybe there is something, I think it's really hard when a rabbi or a pastor starts to lose it a little bit. It's very hard for the congregants to make, to get rid of them. Why is he retiring anyway?
I'm not sure, I don't know, but probably not soon enough. And I'm not sure actually that this is a guy who this is new stuff for him. Seems to me more like...
No, I mean, the clips would suggest otherwise.
He's nuts. He's a crazy old man. And probably has been a crazy young man, too. Hey, Ellen, we got to wrap it up. I'm lucky. It says low battery here. You can't even see it. Can you see? Hold on. I'm holding it up for the...
I can't see.
It says low battery. It's beeping and beeping. Let's do this again. We ran through all our topics, Ellen.
Did we run through all our topics, really?
There's nothing else left to talk about.
Is there anything that bothers you about the campaign? Because there's one thing that really bothers me.
What bothers the whole campaign? I think what really bothers me is this MSNBC stuff. And I'm just so tired of that. I'm so tired of that, of all of I'm fed up with it. I'm fed up with punditry.
Why? Because they're just like flacks, basically?
They're just flacks. It's so boring, too. None of it's interesting.
Well,
it is
true that if you watch these shows that you do get the impression that the press are just flacks. And actually that's another reason why I think that they're doing some good for Hillary Clinton, because she's always speaking, very negatively, and they just repeat those remarks without putting them in any kind of context. Mm-hmm. So I think that helps her, actually.
Okay.
But the thing that really bothers me about this campaign, and about campaigns
it'll soon be over.
No, the thing that bothers me is, why, when the candidates are speaking, do they insist on having people behind them? It's sort of like, do they think we're,
they do.
So stupid
yes.
that if we saw these candidates speaking and there was no one behind them, we would believe that they were speaking to an empty room?
You were the one who said the images are more powerful than the words.
Yeah, but the people behind them are often using their cell phones.
I know. Using their cell phones, texting their friends, falling asleep.
To the
right. And if you watch the Hillary Clinton speeches and the background, people in the background there, it always seems like, wow, she's got a lot of black supporters. Right. And if you watch Obama speaking, it's like, wow, there are a bunch of white guys in trucker hats. They must really like him. Blue-collar whites must love this guy. Otherwise, why would they be there for that rally?
Another thing that I actually just think is hilarious, particularly about Hillary Clinton's, usually victories, is that she always does that little hand thing where she sort of points to someone. She's like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I see you."
Hey,
you know, and
hey.
it's so bizarre. I always wonder, is she really pointing to someone, or is it kind of like, "Hey, look who's there! It's my campaign manager."
Hey, it's a person. Hey, there's a person.
What are you doing here?
Yeah, that's right. That's why politicians will always say, whenever they meet you, they'll say, "Nice to see you," or they'll say, "Nice to see you." Because they probably have seen you before, they've met you, so it's never nice to meet you. It's always, "Hey, nice to see you," meaning you're special to me, and I know you, even if you've never met them before in your life. Yeah.
It's interesting. Well, Rob, I'm actually very impressed. I'm going to take your whole cancel the party thing. I'm going to think about it.
Yeah, this seems like a piece for the Huffington Post.
That was a good observation.
Thank you. I know. You're just treating. You're just kind of. You're stroking me here, trying to make me feel good, trying to help my ego. But I feel like I did have an insight here.
No, it was a great insight.
Yeah,
it really was.
Thank you.
On that up note, should we end?
Dr. Ladowsky, it's been a pleasure.
Dr. Long.
Let's do it again. Let's do it again soon because they're so fantastically disturbed. All these people, they really do need to be discussed.
Did we get to the hour?
Yeah, hour and then some. Did
we really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hour 5, baby.
Okay, next debate.
In fact, if you watch
Lincoln Douglas style.
Yeah, if you watch like I think minute 47 or minute 50, you'll see my beautiful dog get on the sofa in the background and then sort of curl up and to have a snooze.
Oh, really? Okay.
So you haven't seen her yet. So if you watch the thing, you'll see her.
No, I'll have to take a look.
Right.
Okay.
Take care.
Okay. Well, bye.
See ya.
Take care.